the fire.
And ooh, that just sounded really loud. Parks and Recreation Commission meeting of April 5th, 2023 to order, and ask Secretary Floncia Reyes to please call order.
Commissioner Oz?
Here.
Commissioner Perez? Commissioner McMahon?
Here.
Commissioner Shea?
Here.
Vice Chair Thompson?
Here.
Chair Vasquez?
Here, and I meant call the roll, not order. Oh my gosh, okay. We'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance, so if everyone could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you, everyone. So moving on to approval of the agenda, has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? And do we have any amendments to the agenda?
No,
Do I have a motion and a second? To
I'll
approve?
motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Thompson, second by McMahon. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I abstain because I was.
So abstain from Oz. For the agenda?
I wasn't here for the last meeting, so I can't.
We're on the agenda.
Oh, this agenda. Okay.
Correct, this
Yes.
agenda. Okay, and for the record, Commissioner Gutierrez just walked in and is present with us. Agenda item for approval of the minutes. So can I get a motion to approve the February 1 regular meeting of Commission of Parks and Rec for approval? And we don't have any additions or revisions? Okay. Sorry, motion by Baruman, second by McMahon. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
And I
All opposed? And Oz abstains. Abstains. Can't talk tonight. Okay, so moving on to agenda item 5, communications. Director Hubbard, do we have any communications for tonight's meeting?
None, Commission Chair, thank you.
Great, thank you. So then also moving on to agenda item 6, presentations. We have 2 presentations tonight. Director Hubbard, would you like to introduce the first presentation?
Absolutely. I am pleased to bring forward Recreation Supervisor Z. De Leon, who will be presenting active aging and the special interest programs.
Thank you, Reggie. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, Commission, staff, and members of the public. My name is Z. De Leon, and I am the Recreation Supervisor that will be presenting on behalf of Active Aging and Special Interest Recreation Coordinator, Georgie Savolka. The McBride Senior Center is a multi-service center that offers recreation and educational programs, special events, and services focused on health and wellness, nutrition, and social needs to enhance the quality of life for active aging adults 50 years of age and older. In fall and winter of 2022, Active Aging hosted popular chartered trips to San Francisco's Fleet Week, sailing on the San Francisco Bay Bell Cruise Line, indulging in an all-you-can-eat buffet, no-host bar, live music, and enjoying the Blue Angels fly above. We also took a trip to Apple Hill Farms in Placerville for apple everything. Picking fruits, eating delicious apple pies, apple donuts, apple cookies, apple brownies, and enjoying the company of their fellow seniors. In November, over 100 seniors celebrated Thanksgiving with Parks and Rec. During the holidays, it can be a lonely time for seniors who may not have family close by. But at the McBride Senior Center, we are family to our senior community members. The joyous Thanksgiving event was filled with great food, lively music, and love for our seniors. Special thanks to the Vacaville Elks Lodge for sponsoring the event, and Thrive Church of Vacaville, amongst other community members, providing more than 50 volunteers to help make the Thanksgiving event one to remember. Following our Thanksgiving event, Active Aging celebrated the holidays with a hot chocolate social. Seniors were sipping on hot cocoa, donated gifts were passed out, all while singing carols with our very own Active Aging Recreation Coordinator, Georgie, accompanied by our facilities maintenance staff, Ken. Active Aging also organized Senior Santa with the help of volunteers. 100 warm lap blankets were gifted to low-income seniors around town. In February, the seniors enjoyed a Cupid's Chocolate Fountain social with luscious sweet treats, music, and a king and queen of hearts was crowned. In March, the seniors enjoyed tunes from a live band, singing along and dancing. Sandwiches, chips, and water were donated for the special social luncheon. What better way to welcome McBride seniors back with all the amazing monthly special events we have planned through the fall? Here are some weekly programs happening at McBride Senior Center. Majority of the programs listed are favorites of the senior community, especially the famous Coffee Social, which we plan to offer more than once a week as it was previously. The art and music community is thriving at McBride Senior Center, and listed are programs that occur weekly. Among our numerous programs, McBride Senior Center also offers social services for seniors in need of assistance. Many of the listed services are available for free or at a low cost. We are bringing back the iconic monthly newsletter, the McBride Megaphone, as well as posting all our great programs, events, announcements, and on our newly designed bulletin board as the seniors pass by the hallway to check out the latest happenings. We also promote on social media, the events guide, Your Town, and inviting seniors to our low cost to free sponsored events. Challenges currently facing active aging are finding program instructors to teach seniors technology, such as surfing the web via computers, smartphones, tablets, texting, and how to navigate through social media. Who needs Wi-Fi in 2023? We are actively trying to find and recruit new health and wellness program instructors and reassuring our seniors that it is safe to come back to McBride Senior Center. This concludes the presentation for active aging. Are there any questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Z, for the presentation. Are there any commissioner questions or comments? I have Commissioner Gutierrez.
Question. So on your list of challenges, do you guys have the same challenges as far as staffing? I didn't see that listed, or is that not a challenge?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I had to double check if it was on.
Okay, I was like, oh my gosh, we have a program that doesn't have staffing issues, but okay. Thank you. And then I also saw on the list of upcoming events, I saw a Juneteenth event. Is that a city organized event, or are you traveling to another?
So this is for our McBride Senior Center Juneteenth event.
Oh,
Yes.
so you're doing your own. Interesting.
Starting small, and then we'll see.
Yeah, love it.
Nice.
Thank you.
Got a lot of hands up, so just going to go down the line. Commissioner McMahon.
Izzy, thank you very much for your presentation.
one of your challenges listed was technology assistance for seniors navigating maybe iPhones or phones or social media. I know personally, whenever I have a question, I just go to my kids and they know the answer and they navigate through. Is there any ideas or any thought of perhaps having our youth come in and working with the seniors?
Yes, there is some conversation with the teens to see if that's something that can happen eventually.
Yeah, I think that would be really amazing if we can get those two groups together. I think it would be good for both groups, and they know how to navigate through social media and the other avenues. So it sounds like you're on that. So thank you very much.
Commissioner Shea.
Thank you for the presentation. You said you listed quite a few ways that you market the program and publicize it. Do you have any partnerships with care homes in the area, or how do you kind of reach that demographic that has technology difficulty or isn't maybe as fluent with social media, or those avenues that aren't already at your program and see the literature that's up at McBride and other places like that?
So I am attending these monthly share meetings, which is a bunch of senior-related organizations, including care homes and apartment complexes, and we're all meeting monthly to share programs and services that we're trying to support for the senior community together.
That is a really awesome resource. Do you guys have do you tap in with other agencies to like find out how to connect seniors with like other avenues too? That's like a really cool thing to do. Like, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
ACOA is one of them, so the Advisory Council on Aging for the Solano and Napa County. That's a big resource that I just attended recently and will be attending in future so that we can bring in more resources and services for our senior population.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Commissioner Oz.
Thank you for your presentation. When you talk with various seniors, are there some city services or programs or events that they are asking for that for some reason the city is not able to provide? Any challenges that way?
Currently, the largest one is technology assistance and transportation, and of course, housing. Those are the obvious, but we do collect their requests and inquiries. And when we come across, say, a future instructor or another agency that's a neighboring agency that's, say, offering the program, we'll reach out to see if they can share the information so that we can hopefully bring it over to Vacaville's senior population.
Commissioner Baruman.
Z, thank you so much for your presentation. I'm glad the seniors aren't being left behind because I'll be there soon.
Looking forward to it.
The other thing to that, regarding the field trips, how is that? Is that part of your transportation problem when you go on your field trips? Does it cost the seniors or what is it?
So we do chartered buses, which can get costly, um, but we're also trying to use our own staff and our smaller van vehicles at the moment to kind of, promote the programs and the social day trips. And then eventually, when we get enough of the seniors back, then the chartered bus shouldn't be a larger issue.
Thank you.
See, would you mind going back to the challenges slide? I feel like there was other ones. Yeah. I think it might. I don't know if the Vacaville Unified School District has resources, but maybe partnering with them on some of the technology pieces. I know, they have some tech classes, but I do like the idea someone mentioned about kids, Commissioner McMahon. But I'm also wondering too, like maybe how other organizations like Boy Scouts could help. I know they're always looking for volunteer opportunities. So with any programs, maybe just making contact with the pack leaders. I think we have 2 packs in town. I just became part of Cub Scouts, so I'm just learning all the lingo around Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Eagle Scouts. But it may be something that folks might be interested. Even the little kids are always looking for volunteer opportunities. So something to think about.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Any other commissioner questions or comments? Right, well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Z, and the presentation. Very informative and helpful.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for serving
Well,
such.
he has one more presentation.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see it on the agenda. Secondary. Oh, special interests.
All right. Special Interests is a unique group of contractual instructors that offer a variety of programs to the community. You can think of a special interest as a non-traditional hobby which ties to the City of Vacaville's mission to understand and balance our community members' needs, desires, and resources to enhance their quality of life. Here are some programs offered for adults and kids, such as Everyday Basic Life Support and Silicon Valley for You Tech Education, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship in Coding Elements. Discovery Hub is an additional program where community members explore science, math, and technology in fun and creative ways. Ever heard of MasterChef? Well, we have Top Chef for kids and it is returning. What a better way to start in a commercial kitchen where the kids can learn how to use kitchen utensils, appliances, making a variety of seasonal and cultural cuisines and planning and plating techniques. Bon appetit! As you have already heard, the Vacaville Reporter featured the Holiday and Science Camp with our contract instructor, Linda Holloman. Highlights of the camp include STEAM programs that engage our youth. Who loves coffee? Well, you're in luck. Coffee Brewing 101 is a new program starting in the summer that will teach others how to make the perfect cup of coffee. You can be the next coffee connoisseur. As a new goal, we invite the community to get outside, interact with others, and take charge of their own need for exercise, healthy food, and beautiful surroundings with the Gardening Club. If you are digging, hauling, and harvesting, one's physical strength, heart health, weight, sleep, and immune system all benefit as we plan to have a garden area by Fairmont TGIF led by a horticulture specialist. It continues to be a challenge to recruit contract instructors. However, we are working on some new efforts and a special webpage which will serve as a recruitment resource for potential instructors. Staff are continuously reaching out to Solano Community College, Napa Valley College, University of Davis, and Cal Maritime, and encouraging new business entrepreneurs to partner with Parks and Recreation. This concludes the presentation for special interests. Are there any questions or comments?
Any commissioner questions or comments on special interest program? Have Commissioner Shea.
When you say you have a need to fill for instructors, are there specific areas that you're looking in? Things that, certain topics that you want taught, or is it just whatever anybody's got to offer, you're willing to hear it kind of deal?
Yes, because special interest is unique in its own. So we're willing to hear them out on a proposal, and if we believe the management team, if it will benefit the community, then we'll move forward.
Thank you. Any other commissioner questions or comments? Thank you so much, Z, officially for joining us tonight and giving us these two presentations on active aging and special interests. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And our next presentation, Director Hubbard.
Thank you, Commission Chair. We have our park rangers here, Justin Salvo and Jose Virgin, who will be presenting on our park ranger program. It's probably been maybe a year and a half since we've had our park ranger program present, so they'll be up next.
My name is Justin Salvo. I'm Park Ranger with City of Vacaville.
Hello, my name is Jose Virgin. I'm also a park ranger with the City of Vacaville.
Our main park ranger duties are to educate the public on park use and park policies. We also promote safe use of park facilities. We also monitor parks and for parking and code violations. We assist public works. We monitor park rentals for compliance. We also assist for special events and mainly monitor for safety violations.
As park rangers, we regularly patrol Lagoon Valley Park, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. I'm sure you're there often during the summertime. It's a 470-acre park offering hiking, picnics, special events, as well as an off-leash dog park. These are just a few of the things that we can do there at Lagoon Valley Park, of course, including disc golf, which has recently been where we've seen the most increase in activity at Lagoon Valley.
Common violations at Lagoon Valley include graffiti, vandalism, parking fee violations, and abandoned vehicles. We also have a lot of littering and unauthorized park use.
So us Vacaville Park Rangers patrol all 37 parks within the city limits as well. The Rangers also assist the Parks and Recreation Department with special events, including Loop the Lagoon, Recreation Expo, Bunnies and Bonnets, VacaCon, baseball, softball events, and public engagement.
In the last few years, we've noticed an increase in unauthorized events in city parks. These unauthorized uses include boot camps, sports tournaments, and car shows.
As park rangers, we also assist and handle park emergencies such as water leaks, electrical issues, and downed trees. Rangers submit work orders for minor maintenance issues. Rangers promote fire safety at Vacaville parks and contact the local police department as well as the fire department dispatch for any emergencies at our parks. Rangers also provide basic first aid to park goers and again, provide assistance to PD or our fire department dispatch as needed.
Partnerships. We work with Humane Animal Services for domestic animal issues. We also work with the county sheriff for law enforcement issues and Fish and Wildlife for wildlife enforcement issues.
That concludes our presentation. Is there any questions or comments?
Questions or comments? Vice Chair Thompson.
Thank you for your service. From what I hear, the feedback I receive, you guys are doing a great job. So thank you for what you're doing. My question is, what are your biggest challenges? You mentioned some of the violations, but what are your challenges in basically as a park ranger? What do you see?
Parking issues at Lagoon Valley.
Okay.
Park permits and stuff.
Is that exclusive to Lagoon Valley or throughout the entire city?
It's throughout the entire city, mostly at Lagoon Valley, but Centennial Park, Alpatch Park.
Thank you again for all you do.
Thank you.
Commissioner McMahon.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate what you do. So between the two of you, that's a lot of parks throughout Vacaville. Is it safe to say, is one of you on duty 7 days a week? Is that the way it works? Or is there any days, weekends that we don't have a park ranger on duty?
So both of our posts are part-time posts. So it's safe to say that there may not be full coverage 24/7, 24 hours, 7 days a week. There is an attempt to try to make sure that our staffing with Justin and I cover most days, if not all days. But again, us both being part-time, there will be exception to some coverage
Right.
that
And
won't be, taken care of during certain days.
yeah, that's a big area to cover for two part-time people. So I think it's really important that we push for full-time park rangers out there as we grow. I think it's important. So the citations are parking violations. How are those handled? Do you handle those? Do you or do you do citations, or is that handled through Vacaville PD?
We handle the parking citations and we turn them into PD.
Okay. Any, I know Commissioner Thompson asked, what are their challenges? Is the public, I would imagine sometimes aren't always nice to you guys when you show up?
Yes, sometimes.
Right. Anything that we can help with? I would imagine you probably got a good relationship with the Vacaville PD if needed.
Yes,
Safety, obviously, for you guys or for whoever's doing this job is important. So it sounds like you've got a direct line to them if needed.
yes, we do.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have Commissioner Oz.
Thank you, Justin and Jose. Appreciate the presentation. Just quickly, how do you allocate your time between, so Lagoon Valley Park primarily, but then you do touch other parks? How do you allocate your time between the other ones?
So with me coming on board after Justin, primarily my duties are in the inner city. So within the city limits, with all of our local parks in our neighborhoods, that is primarily where I am during my shift. With the exception of course, I definitely go out to Lagoon Valley. And I would say to give you the best answer, approximately maybe 30 to 40% of my time is at Lagoon Valley until closing. And then the other 50 to 60% is within the city parks to make sure that I go to as many, if not all, of the city parks for a brief moment so that I am seen and observed and I can make sure I can report any issues.
Do you feel that that's enough, or do you feel overwhelmed, or do you feel you're missing things just because you weren't available?
I would say with being part-time, at moments it does feel like if I was full-time, I'd definitely be able to be at more parks and I'd be able to maybe gather a little more information to help out, make sure our parks are okay as far as any issues we have with transients or camps or any of those issues within the many parks that we have. So yes, I would say it seems like with the part-time, it is a little more difficult to hit all the parks and be a little more observant out there.
In the other part, do you think security is an issue?
There is a few parks where we've had a few issues as far as, dogs off leash, or we've had a few complaints from, residents saying that there's maybe youth, riding their bicycles kind of aggressively within the parks. Different things that they say would be nice if we were out there a little more. We've had a few people come to us and ask, if we're there all day or not. But I believe that we can potentially make a bigger difference if we are out there more than we currently are.
The police are patrolling the parks as well, I'm sure, but
Yes.
they don't have the same eye that you do on some other things. I'm sure they're just.
Correct. And then because our primary focus is all the parks, PD is usually, they will help and assist if needed, but they're primarily, going throughout the whole city. So it gives, with us, it's a little more focused on all of the parks in the city, especially since it's growing. I'm sure you, just like the Play for All over off Leisure Town, one of our newer parks, it's another addition for us to patrol.
Thank you. I have one question, but I've got others on the board too, that want to speak. When you mentioned somebody maybe files a complaint about, maybe kids at the park or something, does that come through PD and then you are dispatched out to the park? Or, like when someone files a complaint or calls in a complaint at a park that's maybe active, right? Like actively happening, does it go through PD and then they dispatch you? Do you both go out? PD and park rangers?
So it does go, we do get some calls from PD to check out, Lagoon Valley trails. And we do also have a form on the website that we can get emails for park complaints.
Thank you. I had Commissioner Gutierrez next.
Actually, that was part of my question. If someone was at a park and needed or wanted to notify you if they noticed there was a violation, I don't know if there's like a park ranger hotline, or do they just call into dispatch and then you get routed that way? But if someone notices something, maybe it wasn't a dire emergency, but wanted to alert you? So there's a form on the website, you said? And
Yes.
is there a park ranger hotline?
No, there's not a hotline. It's mostly through the community centers. People, call the main Parks and Rec phone number and kind of get relayed to us.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Commissioner Shea, you took your hand down? Yeah.
Yeah, everybody else asked my question.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Berman.
Justin and Jose, thank you for what you're doing. It sounds like it's dangerous. But at the same time, I thought being a ranger would be cool. But when you say part-time, how many hours a day do you guys work?
Between 25 and 29 hours.
So that's like 4 hours a day during the week.
Yep.
And then regarding Lagoon, I saw there was some graffiti on some of the equipment out there and stuff. How often does that happen?
I would say there's something weekly.
Really?
Yes.
Is there cameras out there or no?
There are cameras in the front gate.
But does it?
That's it.
That's it. Okay. Well, thank you so much. You guys be safe out there.
That's all the commissioner questions and comments that I have. So thank you both so much for the presentation. This was really helpful, I think, and informative, especially for us who are out at the parks a lot. And I've definitely seen both of you out at Lagoon Valley and out at some neighborhood parks. So it's great. And thank you for your service to the park. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on to agenda item 7, this is business from the floor. So this is the time to address the commission with issues that are not on the agenda, but are within the commission's subject matter jurisdiction. There is a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. You'll see the timer counting down on the screen there. And does anyone wish to address the commission tonight regarding a topic that is not on the agenda? Go ahead and get it started now. There you go.
You start? Okay. Thank you, commissioners, for allowing us to address you, especially as we celebrate National Pickleball Month. And it reminds me of an annual tradition of merriment on Main. So with all due respect to Eddie K, it's pickleball time in Vacaville. I would go on, but the clock is counting, so. I also want to thank Director Hubbard and his staff within the Park and Rec Department for meeting with us on numerous occasions, listening to us, inviting us to speak with all of them, asking and granting some accommodations for us, and encouraging us as a group here within Vacaville. I am a recreational player, but behind me, the city has numerous talented, dedicated, diehard fanatics that really just want to reach out into our community and expose the sport to all age groups and to all skill levels. My grandchildren in a grade school here in Vacaville, and they've been introduced to pickleball through the school, but in a modified fashion. It made me realize all of us currently playing on the city courts, we're all playing in a modified fashion. We play on several courts at several sites that have pickleball lines added to the tennis court, but all the tennis nets are higher than an actual pickleball net by 2-3 inches, 2 inches, I believe. We have 4 courts at 3 Oaks with painted lines, but the pickleball players must provide and set up their own nets on an ongoing basis. We have courts available at the Georgie Duke Center on a scheduled basis, but there are a lot of limitations to that. Limited court space and nets that are not stationary. Players spend time drawing court lines in chalk on tennis courts, then setting up their own nets to play pickleball. We are all playing it in a modified fashion. Are we whining? Sure, a bit. But as commissioners, you represent areas throughout the city, and you have the ears of the city council members. Please pass on our message, as we will continue to do it. We want to have a thriving pickleball community within Vacaville, and we're willing to work for it. Our overall and long-term goal is to have dedicated pickleball center with permanent nets and this is a bad term right now, and lighting. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was good, huh? So I had a whole laundry list of things to share with you today. And once I started seeing the pickleball out there, it just all went out of my head. So that's how important that is. It just clears your mind like that. But, kind of dovetailing off of what Tom was saying there, we do have those facilities that are available to us, but not completely. Tennis often rents or has programs going at Three Oaks. So we've been kicked off the court after setting up our stuff. So it's not completely there. Children's programs take precedence at Georgie Duke. So we have been kicked off there as well. So, and then North Orchard is it's not a given because it is a multi-use facility. So if tennis gets there first, we don't get to play. So we have no place to actually play. And beginning of the year, we became a 501c3. And we really do, like Tom said, want to build this community. And we are really willing to work at this. But it's difficult when you can't say, hey, come play, come support us, give us, some cash so we can build this thing because we have no place to play. So if you don't mind, we're going to leave the net up out here for a while and see if we can play out here. But those are just some of the things that I wanted to point out to you was that there is no dedicated space, even though the lines are drawn. It is actually pitting tennis and pickleball against one another. With that, I know the fence went down at Centennial and that was just bad. And it is drawn all the people, all the tennis players out to the other courts now. So it's still ahead, even though we have paired up with tennis, the lines are drawn, right? Tennis comes first or pickleball comes first. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I thank you for coming out and indulging us with this out there. And like John was saying, the blue lines will probably go away in a few weeks, if it rains again or something. But thank you all again for indulging us and not calling the cops or whatever for us. So.
Thank you.
Hello, I don't have my notes, but I have a few things to say. I love Vacaville. I have lived here for about 40 years, and I love pickleball. And I love the community that pickleball provides, brings us together to play. And we have formed a group of 501c3 because we love this game. We have hope that we can see our dream come true. But I want to remember that in 2008, Marilee started with you to draw lines that we play on now at North Orchard and at Three Oaks. And those were drawn in 2015. Marilee isn't here anymore. And I want to be here. I want to play on courts in the city I love, the sport I love, with the people I love. I can go to Fairfield. I can go to Woodland. I can go to Davis. I want to stay here. So build it and we will stay here.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jay, and I'm a pickleball player, and I don't live here. I live in Woodland. I work here. I work in the school district. The school district has pickleball. There's a bunch of people who are going to be coming up. We're a small group here. This is a small part of our population. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the whole country. We're a nice group. We're a friendly group. Please come and play with us. Smaller towns than Vacaville have better facilities than Vacaville. So people in Vacaville are going to go to those other places. And after they go, we're all going to go out for pizza and beer. And we're not going to spend that money here in Vacaville. We're going to go spend it there. If you guys have nice facilities, people will come from other places here and spend their money here. It's a revenue generator. You can have tournaments. Tournaments are a revenue generator. When people come, they're going to spend money on all the restaurants and bars because we all like to have a good time. So come down and have a good time with us sometime. And please.
Thank you. Thank you all. Seeing no more comments, I'm going to go ahead and, oh, okay, come on down. Right before.
Hi, I'm Amy, and I'm a fellow pickleball player with all my friends over here. And I heard, maybe a rumor, but that eventually you guys are going to paint some lines on North Orchard's courts. When will that be happening? I heard good sunny days, a good patch of sunny days. I'm just wondering when that's going to help and if you guys need any help laying it down. We can paintbrush. Yeah,
I'm not sure of that timeline, but I can get back to you with that.
okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no more business from the floor, I'm going to go ahead and close business from the floor. Thank you for the comments. Moving on to agenda item 8 is reports of Park Manager Wallace Awiao. Hopefully I got that right. Close enough? Can you pronounce it then when you speak it? Awiao? Awiao, like a V. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Here's our update for this month. Not very much for you, but we have, believe they finished up today on the installation of the new fitness course equipment at Alamo Creek Park. So we have some photos before and afters of what's been done out there. It was in, a lot of pieces were missing. It was in, some of it was, other stuff was in, states of disrepair. So work has taken place and it wasn't completed today. I'm sure that it's going to be done by tomorrow. Along with that, the Superintendent Jacobson talked to you last week about the North Orchard Bike Trail Slurry Seal, and that's going to be completed as part of the citywide project this summer. And Madam Chair, you had asked about the schedule for neighborhood park replacements, and in front of all of you, there's a schedule of when they will be replaced. We work off of a 20-year cycle. Manufacturers recommend a cycle of 15 to 20 years, and just in terms of saving funds, we've opted for a 20-year service life. Excuse me. As we go through all of these replacements, they're subject to the amount of funding that is in the accounts from the set asides for the each park. And that's all that I had. Anyone have any questions?
Any commissioner questions or comments? I have Commissioner Oz.
Thank you, Wallace. Just to go back to the assumptions on the replacement schedule, because my understanding is the standard for replacement of playgrounds is 15 years typically?
15 to 20 year is the manufacturer's recommendation.
15 to 20?
Yes.
So we're on the, okay.
We opt for the longer time frame, yes.
So this schedule just based upon that standard, and so our funding for the replacement schedule is based upon 20, not anything earlier.
Correct.
And was that, I know you're new, was that was that decision because of limitation of funds, or was it?
That would be my assumption. That this has been the rotate. I've been with the city of Vacaville for 23 years, and this has been the rotation that we've been on since I've been here. So I would assume that's the case.
I have just a follow-up question since we're on the replacement schedule. What if there's damage to a piece of equipment that may be potentially harmful or could potentially injure someone? Does that lay cause for replacement immediately? How does that work?
Yeah. So any equipment that is damaged through a lot of times it's vandalism or just gets worn out. We close immediately for safety purposes, and then we work on replacing that individual piece of equipment that is on the playground. So we're in the midst of doing many repairs right now. We have a contractor coming in to repair a bunch of slides that have cracked. That he should be here in the next 2 weeks to make those repairs. So as we go through and do our bi-weekly playground inspections, as we come across equipment that is worn out or broken, we make the repairs as necessary.
Thank you. And then one more follow-up question, and I also have Commissioner McMahon on the board too. So Nelson's on here for 2022, but that master plan was just approved by City Council. What happens? Do you all wait it out until we can get funding for the master plan renovations? Do you replace it and then leave it?
Yeah, that's exactly what you said. That's the decision that's been made with Nelson in particular, because of the master plan had just been developed, and we're gonna, as part of going on with that master plan, the equipment will replace that.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner McMahon.
Thank you, Chair. Wallace, thank you very much for your presentation. My question is this, a week or two ago, the wind destroyed a fence out at Centennial at the tennis courts.
Yes, it did.
Where are we at with that? Has that been repaired, or is it in the process? Are those courts open or closed?
Okay, well, it's a lot of questions at once. So
Yeah.
obviously right now they're closed. We're gone through and taken the windscreens down. We've gotten, we secured quotes for putting the fencing back up as existing, but in doing so, we won't be able to replace the windscreen. So I believe that Superintendent Jacobson is looking into seeing about securing more funding to try to maybe put larger poles in that would support a windscreen, because otherwise, if we replace that, we face the possibility of that happening again. This is the second time that fence has gone down. Not as severe the first time, but
Was it because of the windscreen? I mean, the winds were pretty
yeah,
intense.
so I think 4 years ago, the south fence, the long south fence, bent inwards towards the tennis court, and it wasn't damaged so much that we weren't able to have our contractor that we use for fencing come out, and he kind of straightened them up for us, and that took place. But they're 2-inch galvanized poles, and that they're not designed to handle that kind of wind load, and tennis players want windscreens. So, but if we go and repair the the fence back to the way it was. We won't be able to put windscreens back on there, just chancing to have that happen again. The weather events seem to keep getting magnified and.
Right. Any timeline on that? Obviously, we've got a group of people here that are impacted by that.
I have no timeline for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I have Vice Chair Thompson.
Thank you, Wallace, for your presentation. I had a question about your replacement schedule, and I know this is not quantitative. I don't expect any hard numbers here, but you've been with the city for a long time. What is your sense on how often utilities or items at these parks actually make it to this 20-year cycle? You mentioned a variety of reasons why things, either vandalism or just damage due to storms or otherwise. Do we ever get to 20 years? It sounds like a lot of things, if something happens throughout that 20-year life.
There's typically, repairs that need to be done, but for the most part, those structures have a good history of lasting. Probably, excuse me, when I started here, there were playgrounds that were well beyond the 20-year life cycle that were still up and functioning.
So with some minor repairs and some maintenance, they are making it to their 20-year
Oh,
span.
absolutely,
Okay,
yes.
okay. I appreciate it.
I have two other questions. Out at Alamo, I haven't been out there recently, but that back fencing along the creek line was all down for a good couple of months. Is that now back up?
That's been fixed.
Okay, good. And then my other question, you mentioned the North Orchard bike path is gonna be slurry sealed. Is there any possibility of it connecting with the North Alamo path? I'm talking about like how the bike path is down at North Alamo, but then it sort of just disconnects where like Candy Cane Lane is, so you can't ever connect.
I'm not aware of any plans to have those connected.
All right, thank you. Any other commissioner questions or comments? All right, thank you so much, Wallace, for the presentation and for this. This was really helpful. Let's see. Okay, so moving on to agenda item 9, Director Hubbard, if you would like to introduce the next item.
Yes, thank you, Commission Chair. Each year around this time, when we're going through our budgets and coordinating our budgets with staff, we come before the commission to give an update on how the process works. And tonight we have our management analyst, Eric Laro, who will be presenting this item.
Presentation on the annual operating budget process for our department. Last year, I presented the city process and timeline. And this year, I wanted to provide a bit more of a detailed look at how our staff develop their budgets while considering feedback from council, commission, and the community. So this slide might look a little bit familiar. I just wanted to start out by providing a refresher on the annual budget cycle. So formal preparation of the annual budget begins in January each year, with adoption of the budget occurring in June. And all of those things, org charts, revenues and expenditures, meetings with the city manager and finance, and then presentation to council and commission happen sequentially. However, as I'll elaborate a little bit more in the presentation, budget development is a continuous and collaborative process between all levels of the department, commission, and the public. Here's just a quick review of different budget divisions within Parks and Rec. So we have administration, facilities, pay-to-play programs, and community well-being programs. The budget is divided this way to establish cost recovery goals and to accurately measure and assess the costs and revenues of recreation programming, as well as operating costs of facilities. The start of our budget process begins at the coordinator level. Coordinators first develop draft budgets for each of the program areas that they oversee. Coordinators will then present their budgets to the management team, who discuss feasibility and confirm sustainability. And then we combine the individual program budgets to create a comprehensive department budget proposal. Around this time, we also are provided with our department-based budget from finance, which is just our previous year's budget with a consumer price index adjustment added to it. And then we make alterations to the coordinator proposed budgets to best fit within the bounds of this base budget. Management then will present the comprehensive document to the finance department and the city manager. We review current budget year status and inform them of upcoming department strategies. During this process, we review the base budget and advocate for any expenses that may be above that provided base budget. We also receive feedback on proposed programming, make necessary adjustments, and finalize the budget proposal for commission and council. The budget is then presented to commission as informational, highlighting budget strategy and new programming for the upcoming fiscal year. And then the final step of the budget cycle is city council approval, which typically occurs during the last council meeting in June. Expenditure projections are based on a combination of reviewing historic numbers and also being cognizant of current trends. Coordinators compare past and present numbers as well as community feedback to evaluate performance and demand of programming. This is used to make decisions such as expanding activity sessions, directing marketing efforts, or adjusting offerings to maximize recreation that's currently desired by the community. Once this analysis has been completed, an inflation and staff cost increase factor is added to the budget to account for these external and economic influences. And then finally, coordinators add new programming to their budgets using projected participation numbers to determine the staff, supply, and instructor costs. And because our programs all have cost recovery goals, the process of developing expenses and revenues is often done simultaneously. This way, coordinators ensure they're developing budgets that are accurate, setting prices that are fiscally sustainable, and preserving the positive interaction between costs and fees. Similar to expenses, coordinators analyze historic revenues and current year performance. This captures a picture of past earning potential for some of our more long-standing programs, and also allows them to be responsive to activities that are currently in demand within the community. Where costs are adjusted, fees for service must also be adjusted to ensure fiscal sustainability and longevity of recreation offerings. This allows the department to maintain a healthy cost recovery percentage and minimize general fund subsidy. The next step is to project revenues from proposed new programming based on estimated participation numbers. Participation projections are tied to session and facility capacity and availability, which can be a limiting factor when space is insufficient to keep up with demand, which is something that we've been experiencing recently. Lastly, coordinators review their expenses against the revenue projections to ensure their programs are within the bounds of their cost recovery goals to promote efficiency and effective budgets. An additional component to the development of the annual budget are augmentation requests. Augmentations provide additional funding for a cost increase in an existing program or service, for the provision of a new or expanded program or service, or for one-time costs such as equipment. For us, staffing is a key resource for program operation, and with the increase in recreation demand we've experienced recently, and the park projects as well, our augmentation requests have allowed us to recruit additional staff to manage the increased workload. Some examples of this are the addition of an associate planner, a recreation supervisor, an administrative technician for department marketing, and the conversion of a part-time to full-time facility maintenance coordinator. All were approved in the current fiscal year. So staff and commission budget objectives. A vital piece to developing budgets that are in line with city strategy is communication between staff, the commission, and the public. Throughout the year, the department provides program updates, such as the one presented by Z and the Rangers tonight. Also Park and Rec Master Plan updates and park project updates that inform the commission and the community of the current status of these items and challenges that the department is currently facing. Staff also receives feedback and suggestions at these meetings from commissioners and citizens, which allows us to understand the current desires and needs of the community and create strategies to help meet the needs of the city, promote equity and inclusion, and preserve the city's quality of life through high-level recreation. Our staff takes this information into consideration when developing our annual budget and creates programs and projects to be responsive to this feedback. An anecdotal demonstration of this is the presence of the pickleball community at multiple commission meetings has led to a partnership with staff to develop pickleball programming within our sports budget. The objective and desired outcome of this communication is that the department can be informed of the community priorities and that the commission can be informed on the department's strategy and plan new offerings for the upcoming year. And that concludes my presentation of the department budget development process. I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Questions or comments? I have or actually, I'm going to open it to the public first. Let me officially open this item for public comment. Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment and now take commissioner questions or comments. Commissioner Oz.
Thank you, Eric. First of all, just thank you for bringing the budget regularly through the cycle rather than just at once when it's pretty much all said and done. Just cutting to the chase. So the budget this year, can you just give us a sense as to what have been some of the challenges with this year's budget? Like what do you wish you could have had in the budget? Where was it deficient? Or, just give us a sense of that.
While we are still in the process of developing and finalizing the budget for this year, I think
I mean, the budget that we're currently in, not next year's budget, this year's
this year's current budget
that we're in. How is it actualizing, I guess?
So we have experienced, just coming out of COVID, such a bigger demand of recreation that I think kind of caught us off guard a little bit. And we've had kind of the struggles that have been echoed tonight with facility space and both indoor and outdoor, as well as we've had staffing challenges that for our part-time, we are full-time staffed pretty good right now, but for our part-time positions, which are the ones who are really running those recreation programs and keeping up with the demand from the community, not having those fully staffed has kind of been one of the bigger challenges we faced this year.
So be candid with me, what for the budget coming up, I know we're sort of into it already. Do you have any concerns about what we need versus what we probably will end up with? Is there a deficit there somewhere that we should be presented that now rather than at the end, when it's too late?
Not anything that stands out operations-wise. We do have a lot of projects that are underfunded, and those kind of are the bigger kind of fiscal concerns that we have at the moment. We did get a consumer price index increase of 4.9%, which was pretty healthy to support our programming budget.
What was underfunded? What programs were underfunded?
Projects like our parks projects, our facilities projects, things
Gotcha.
like that.
And then last question on the cost of service fees or fees for service, I think the term you used, are those adjusted annually for inflation and then to come back with a study every few years to have them updated? What's that?
So it's a little bit informal in the sense that we don't want to set prices on a schedule that is on an annual basis because we also want to take into account the prices of recreational offerings for the communities around us. So we don't want to be raising our prices so much to where we are pricing ourselves out. But we also want to make sure when we have changes in staffing, like staff increases or increases in cost inflation, that we're taking a look at are our fees still covering those costs. So it's more of kind of an irregular cycle where if we're experiencing an increase of costs, we then take a closer look at the individual pricing of our programs and just make sure that we're being sustainable.
So if the budget, pretty much a lot of the programs are staffing related and those those are going up 2 or 3%, we're not adjusting our service fees accordingly?
We do at times with with recreational programming, it's more irregular, but when we're talking about things like facility rentals, those go with the fee schedule on an annual basis, and those do get adjusted by CPI every year. However, for the recreational programs, it's more of on a needs basis.
I just know sometimes those fees can just sort of sit on the shelf and they all of a sudden 15 years later, you're wondering, well, we haven't changed it for 15 years and now it's just not recovering what it was intended to do. So,
Right. They definitely don't go 15 years.
all right. Good. Inflation is real. I mean, so we have to keep those fees adjusted. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Oz. I have Commissioner Shea.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm trying hard to keep up. It's been a long week so far. So I'm really happy to hear that all of the hard work of the pickleball community has been heard and that is one of the considerations. And I guess this is actually more of a question or a request for Reggie or the rest of the staff. Can I a couple times, Eric brought it up, some of the speakers tonight brought it up, that there have been like talks with staff. Can commission get an update on that? Like what are the plans going forward for pickleball? How will that be considered throughout the budgeting process? Just because we have been hearing so much about it and the community's been such good advocates for their needs. I would be interested in just hearing, what the plans are going forward for that.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Staff have been meeting with the pickleball community along with the tennis community as well. And it's almost a joint effort where we don't want to leave one behind. And they've been really great in meeting us in the middle and not saying, okay, we want tennis or we want pickleball. They're really great to share. I know they, like I said, they paint lines on tennis courts and it's okay. And they're able to schedule things accordingly. Even when the winds tore up the courts at Centennial Park, they were able to go back to Three Oaks, the tennis folks, and still share with the pickleball court folks. But we're continuing to meet with them to see what we can do more long-term. I know short-term, as Eric mentioned, we will be having pickleball instruction, so that means there are more pickleball courts needed. At the time, we haven't identified the land to build like a pickleball court on its own with several courts. We've talked about Nelson Park. We've talked about Roberts Ranch having pickleball courts. So those are in the pipeline to come forward.
Mr. Hubbard, I think Council Nam is, I think,
Okay.
trying to keep us on
Gotcha.
agenda
I gotcha.
topic.
Thank you. No, gotcha.
And stay with-
So we're continuing to meet with them, but if we want a more formal update on those discussions, we can come and agendize it.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
I had other questions. You said that projects are underfunded. What can we get more information about what projects are kind of underfunded? Is it any of the ones that have come before commission somewhat recently? Or are they things that would potentially in the future be presented to commission?
I probably can take that question.
Okay, sorry.
The projects that come to mind that are underfunded at this point and we're going after grant funding, is one, the Sierra Vista Park. And so we're going to be requesting additional funds to fund that park. I believe that's the only one, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm looking at Nemo and I'm trying to think there's another project out there that's underfunded, but that's the one that comes to mind up front. And we will be requesting additional funds. It's funded where we can get to the point where we can do the master plan, the construction docs, and get to a certain point. But when construction starts, we'll be asking for additional funds to make sure that happens. So it's not, although it's underfunded, it will be funded. Well, I should say, we'll be requesting money to fund it, as we had to do with the Trower Park project.
Perfect, thank you. And then something that's just been continuously coming up, you've already mentioned it, that are sore spots throughout and continuously is staffing, facilities, space for all these programs, space for pickleball, facilities. So is that the focus going into this next budget planning session? Is that, I mean, you identified it as a sore spot. Are you guys like, going hard to the wall for that stuff? Is that something that's going to be less of a sore spot going forward? Hopefully, you can't predict what actually happens with the budget. You can only plan, but is that something that you guys are planning very vigorously to do?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Related to facilities, as you are aware, we have a contract with the school district for facility use. So we'll be taking a look at that and ensuring that we're maximizing our use at the school district sites as well. because there are times when their gyms are empty or their tennis courts are empty. Well, we'll see if we can use their facilities to kind of bridge that gap where we're having problems maximizing our facility use, because we only have so many. We have the Duke, right, and we have the skate center for indoor use. So we need more, but those are the things that we'll be looking at this coming year.
And staffing too, and that was, yeah.
Shay, I have a couple questions. It sounds like, now that I've been around a couple years, that the budgeting process really starts at the program coordinator level. I'm just curious and just kind of wondering, like, what kind of training are they provided on budgeting, or professional development on budgeting and managing budgets and managing, I mean, I don't know what, like when you break it down into a smaller scale, right? Like what does a program coordinator's budget look like? Obviously, it probably depends on what programs they're running, but like, are they managing like a $500,000 budget, $100,000 budget, and like what kind of training are they provided on budgeting and managing budgets? I don't know if that's more of a you question or a Director Hubbard question.
I can speak to a bit of that. So it really is a collaborative process between myself and the coordinators, as well as the other management employees. So they have kind of the historical numbers as well as the expertise of the program areas that they're working with. And then I sort of have the financial expertise to work with them to make sure that they're making a sustainable budget, give them suggestions on where they can tweak and improve their budgets, take a look at their costs, see where we can cut, take a look at their session availabilities, making sure they're maximizing all of that. So throughout the year, really, we do quarterly budget meetings as well. So once a quarter, I'll meet with the coordinators and we'll go over how their budgets are performing. And it's kind of the same process of looking at where costs are high, where revenues are good, where we could use some work. So it's a continuous process. They provide the recreational programming expertise, and I kind of help with the financial side.
Thank you. And then one of your slides mentioned augmentation requests. I'm kind of wondering, like, are these requests coming down from the program coordinators to Director Hubbard? Are they coming, or is augmentation requests potentially come in the form of like you going out on behalf to City Council? Like where do those kind of come from and where do they go to?
I think a perfect example is what Eric mentioned about pickleball. So augmentation request would be, we've heard from the pickleball group, and so we would need, $20,000 more in next year's budget to hire a pickleball instructor. So we would put that in the budget, but then it has to be approved by the city manager once we sit down with him to get that approval. And then the council would ultimately have to approve that.
So the budget, this slide then is talking more so about like augmentations, like in preparing and planning for the next budget, not kind of like mid-year augmentations or like an emergency augmentation that you may have to go to council to. This is just specifically for planning for the next fiscal year.
Correct. But we have done mid-year and emergency augmentations as well. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And I have Commissioner Oz again on the board.
Yeah, Eric, just one more question. Refresh my memory on the capital budget. Is that on the same cycle? So I see that in May, we're going to receive a presentation on the next year's budget. Will the capital budget be on that agenda as well?
So the capital improvement program, it will, I believe this year, coincide at the same time.
Okay.
There are some adjustments being made to the timeline. It'll always be approved in June. So it will come at the same time we bring the proposed operating budget, we'll bring the proposed capital improvement budget as well to commission.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other commissioner questions or comments? Is that another? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much, Eric, for the presentation. I'm looking forward to the ongoing budget conversations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so committee reports, agenda item 10. I have first on the list, Play for All Committee, Commissioner Shea.
Thank you. I think that one of the most important things to talk about when talking about Play for All is, of course, there's ongoing needs for fundraising. I updated the council last time. Inflation is a frequent topic here nowadays for all projects and things. That's something that's also impacting the committee in planning phase 2 of Play for All. They did get the huge state grant. However, that's not going to cover all of the things that they proposed for that grant just because of inflation. So that's an ongoing need, and it will be, and it's probably something I'll say at every commission update that I do about Play for All. Another really big need, and I don't think that anybody really could have anticipated this, is parking. And I wanted to bring that up tonight because Play for All has been hugely successful and popular. There are just massive crowds out there every weekend. It's been very busy, very well received by the community and well attended. However, that does pose an issue with parking. The existing parking is pretty insufficient for the crowds that they've been getting. And, you know, maybe it could have been anticipated, maybe not. It is an ongoing topic at the committee meetings. And they're trying to think of really creative ways to solve that problem. But I think that it would be good for the city to partner with them on that going forward and find out how to add more parking to that and how they can partner with the committee in the future builds that they're going to do and, you know, planning out additional parking for the park. I know that like in planning the event that I'm doing, it's already a consideration for me. It's on a really main thoroughfare with no not even an embankment really. It's just a road, a straight road. And people have been parking on that main road, which is like really unsafe. So that's definitely in consideration, not just, you know, for safety, but for liability. And yeah, that's it. Fundraising. Support Play for All Park. They still have a lot of work to do. And I would really like to see that get done and start to happen.
Thank you, Commissioner Shea. Any commissioner questions or comments for Commissioner Shea?
Oh, and I just did want to say, I do want to acknowledge Commissioner Baruman and Commissioner McMahon have also just been very involved in Play for All. Commissioner Baruman was the previous subcommittee member, and he still attends meetings, and Commissioner McMahon joined us as well. So it's nice to see them out, and it's nice to see the support of all the commission because it's a really good project.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Shea. I have 10B, Youth Sports Advisory Team, Vice Chair Thompson.
Thank you. The Youth Sports Advisory Team meeting was held on March 16th. For those of you who probably don't remember, it was one of the very few sunny days in Vacaville. So it was a record fast meeting. It was about 26 minutes because no one was there. They were out playing baseball and softball and soccer. So we did get some brief updates from Public Works that all of the maintenance items had been completed. Introductions of new participants, mostly from city staff and from some of the soccer leagues that had some changeover in board members. And then Elizabeth notified everyone of 2 community meetings that were to take place, one on the Centennial Park lighting project that was held on March 30th via Zoom, and the Arlington Park lighting project, which is held tomorrow night via Zoom. And both those links are on the city webpage. But that was really all that there was to talk about because no one else was there. Everyone was out enjoying sports. So it was really nice to see. That's it.
Any questions or comments for Vice Chair Thompson on YSAT? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to 10C, Vacaville Arts and Cultural Alliance with Commissioner McMahon.
Thank you, Chair. Since our last commission meeting, we have not met. VACA has not met. Our next scheduled meeting is the 20th of April. So I will have more details on Arts Week, which is scheduled for September. We're still working on the dates and perhaps maybe making it a little shorter than it's scheduled to be. So I will have more details on that at our next commission meeting in May.
Any commissioner questions or comments for Commissioner McMahon? None, thank you, Commissioner McMahon. And let's see, 10D, Vacaville Performing Arts Theater Season of Shows Committee, and Commissioner Oz.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I know that Judy and Rachel attended the last commission meeting and gave a big presentation on VPAT, which was very helpful. We've met twice so far on and getting performers for the next season. And according to Judy at the last meeting, we're actually ahead of schedule. So we're actually feeling pretty confident on the lineup that we're currently looking at. I think I can announce the one that we have confirmed, which is Step Africa. So we have Step Africa lined up for January 21st. And I actually have a little blurb I'm going to read because it's hard to describe what Step Africa performance is. But Step Africa is a signature performance which shares the step tradition of audience participation and closes with a complex polyrhythmic percussion symphony that brings the audience to their feet. So we're really, really excited about that. And then the rest of the lineup, we've got a good mix of a musical, a number of country bands, some blues country comedy shows, but it is all lining up. So.
All right, thank you. Any commissioner questions or comments for Commissioner Oz?
That blurb again, that was a mouthful.
Well, and it was even more challenging reading my writing. So.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Oz. Well, thank you, all four of you, for all the updates on the subcommittees. Moving on to 11, the reports of Park Planner Nemo Gonzalez, and he's going to give us some park project updates.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. Great to see you after a month off. We've had some tremendous success with the council the last couple of months, and I've got some brief updates. Thank you. To start it off, I wanted to discuss something that we get a bit of questions on at Streamers Park. The developer has completed the park construction along with the addition of a mini play area and a butterfly garden. And the developer is about halfway through their maintenance period. And so we anticipate, I know I've said this before, but we've got pretty good information that they're going to be opening the park up next month. And so just wanted to make a public statement so that it's out there and you can hold us accountable. In terms of the Park and Rec Master Plan projects, at the February 28th City Council meeting, City Council unanimously approved the Commission's recommendation to prioritize a multi-use rec facility. And because this facility is tentatively proposed at Centennial Park, our department is waiting on final approval of the master plan for Centennial before identifying exactly what needs to occur next, likely an environmental assessment. At the March 28th City Council meeting, the City Council unanimously approved Nelson Park updated master plan. One minor amendment to the plan was to add lighting at the mini ball field and the pickleball court. Part of the presentation that night included a recommended construction phasing plan, and that's what you're looking at tonight. There was a request to bring that to commission, and the budget that's identified on this particular plan is for hard costs only. And so the actual cost will be slightly higher. What is not included is the soft costs. So Public Works fee to review plans and do the construction inspection, and things like a consultant's fee for developing construction documents, surveys, other things of that nature. And finally, at that same meeting on March 28th, City Council unanimously approved the Alpatch updated master plan. Their minor amendment for this particular plan was to add additional monuments recognizing Al Patch and correctional officers in general and their service. And this is the phasing plan that was prepared by the consultant for Al Patch. Similarly, these fees are hard costs, and we are going to be getting, as part of the final package, a document that adds those soft costs, so we'll be able to better anticipate the actual costs moving forward. And that is it. Any questions?
Thank you, Nemo. The board's lighting up. Okay, Commissioner Baruman.
Nemo, thank you so much about Dream Park. Finally happening. My sister-in-law lives there. She tells me every day, Ralph, when's that park going to open? Well, let me talk to somebody that knows something, right? But thank you, because I know last time you were buying up that something had needed to be done by the developer and stuff. So that's coming to an opening finally, right? Excellent. And it's good to hear about all the phases, but the soft costs you're talking about sound expensive. It seems like you're going to add, it's like the full dollar amount isn't known yet. It's like a mystery.
Yeah, it's difficult to gauge exactly what that is. And a good example of that is, so there are things that our department doesn't control, like the environmental assessment, and that can range anywhere between a categorical exemption, which is filing a $50, form with the county. And on the other end of the spectrum, you've got a full EIR, which could cost over 100,000 and take over a year. So that's why it's difficult sometimes to sort of give accurate information about next steps or exactly how much something is going to cost until sort of we start to dig in a little bit deeper.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go down the line because I don't know who was next. Commissioner Oz.
Nemo, thank you for all the work that you do. I hope that you're getting vacation time because you seem to be very, very, very busy with all these parks. So keep it up. And so I wanted to say that, but then I'll jump to, I'm in District 6 and I was just curious about Vanden Meadows Park. So Vanden Estates is now built out and Vanden Meadows is now getting to be like halfway built out. I don't know exactly. But Commissioner Wiley has asked, and I've had some residents asking about, when's our park, now that we're becoming a developed community, when's that going to be coming online? And I know I'm putting you on the spot. I probably should have emailed you prior. So if you have some comments now, that's great. If you want to email me later, that'd be fine too.
Yeah, I actually do have an update. So one of the things that anytime something gets sort of assigned to me, and that happens to be my project, I always ask, I used to ask Director Walker this question, and I asked Director Hubbard this as well, is how do you want me to prioritize this, right? I can only do so many projects at one time, and we've been busy. But some of these projects are actually, they're coming to sort of the end of our portion of the scope of work. And so as some of these projects sort of move on to construction and public works, we are going to prioritize master planning the Vanden Meadows Park. We do have challenges, including not enough diff that was collected to actually construct it. And so we're going to sort of fragment that park until we figure out exactly how to do a full build out, but it's in the works.
Not enough impact fees have been collected to date, or there was a deficiency in the collection?
So there's so from my seat right now, and again, it's difficult to be very informed, and maybe I should actually just follow up with that question because we have had these discussions. Yeah, I want to say both. But if I want to give you an educated response, I should go back and do the research and follow up and let you know for sure. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Oz. Vice Chair Thompson.
Thank you, Nemo. I'm sorry, I do think you deserve it, but I think you should defer your vacation because we need your services. So, I'm sorry. I appreciate everything that you do. I'm going to ask you a very difficult question that I hope you can shed some light on. The spacing between, I see the phasing at Owl Patch Park and the phasing at the Nelson Park. Is that, what is the spacing and the phasing? I understand that it's a financial primarily, so that it defers some of the cost, but is it phase one is year one and phase two is year 5, or phase two is year 10, or is it year 2? I mean, is there a plan for that? And how do we make sure that we adhere to that plan?
So there isn't a set plan right now, and primarily that's driven by the fact that we don't have the funds to build any of this, not even phase one. And it's going to vary depending on the phase. So for instance, this is a good example. One of the things that we thought would be beneficial was to build a new multi-use field first. And as part of that, one of the things that the consultant put together was a sort of calculation that determines a number of additional parking stalls that you would need if you were going to add another field. And so that we're obligated to provide that along with any sort of regulatory things, like I talked about this at council, but one of the things that's not shown on the plan is how you treat stormwater. If you're introducing so much impervious surface, you have to treat stormwater. That's a state law. And so all of those things need to be wrapped into those individual phases. So that phase one for Owl Patch would be very different than the phase 4 for Owl Patch, which is just the skate park. Because by phase 4, all of the parking would have already been built, right? And so you've got very minimal amounts of contractors out there coordinating this work, likely just 1 or 2, depending on if the skate park is lighted or not, or those kinds of things. Whereas phase 1 is a little bit more complex in that you've got a synthetic turf that likely might be one subcontractor. You might have a prime. You might have another sub that's definitely doing electrical. You might have a paving subcontractor. So coordinating those things from a schedule standpoint is a little bit more complex than doing one single element. So there's that. And then the other sort of caveat being, again, if any adjustment needs to be made to, the environmental, so that needs to be reviewed. Typically, that'll happen obviously in phase 1 before you proceed with any sort of construction. And then you could even fragment that part of it. So for Centennial, that's 200 plus acres. It's almost a given that you're likely going to do that in a fragmented fashion, because in order to move forward with anything, it's going to be difficult to, pay such a substantial fee up front for something that might be 20 years down the line.
So I guess what I'm hearing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that there is, the phasing I get is very complex, but there is not a sequential plan for phase 1 to phase 2, because it is not either budgeted for, or it's, so phase 2 could potentially happen 10 years down the road, is what I'm sort of hearing.
Correct. So I'll break down the advantage of doing something like a phasing plan. It is sequential, but not in the way that you're thinking of. The sequence really is, what are the requirements in terms of, if you're adding a field, you're required to also build parking that's associated with that particular field. The advantage of breaking the development into like bite-sized chunks of a set amount of fee is that at any point in the future, if we prepare these tools, we're able to manipulate them, apply an inflation factor, 5 years from now, because we'll have tangible data of how much construction costs have gone up that we can apply to that document to then have a better sense of better starting off point of what we need. So when we're having budgetary discussions, or so every year we have budget discussions about what we need to fund or what we want to fund. And we can use that as a tool and be better informed instead of engaging another consultant, 5 or 10 years from now to try to figure out what are the costs then. So it's essentially just an internal tool for us to try to figure out ourselves what were, we thinking 10 years ago when we put this together. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. I mean, I understand the complexity of the phasing and the different phases have different levels of complexity. I'm trying to, for the community, when we lay out five phases, for example, at Alpatch, if we started phase 1 in 2024, do we expect to hit phase 5 in 2026 or 2036 is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
And I get, when asking the question, I knew this was a fairly complex, probably not a concrete answer, but it sounds like there is no real concrete linear plan for completing all the phases.
That's right. So with no budget allocated for construction, it's difficult to set a time frame for any of this. I will say that again, phase 1 for any of these is going to be probably the one that takes the most amount of time because some of that upfront work occurs then.
That makes sense.
So I don't see anything happening before 2024 for any of these projects. And then subsequently we can pursue grants for some of this, and we can have discussions on whether we want to augment that with whatever other funds, whether it's Measure-M or the general fund, but no set time right now for any of the projects.
And if I can provide a little context to Commissioner Thompson, Alpatch Phase 1 was done in 2004, right? It's 2023, and we haven't even started the Phase 2. So there's no real timeline. If a grant was available or our budget was available, we probably would have started on a phase of Patch, or Phase 2 of Patch. But that's a really tough question because it all depends on funding, grant availability, Measure-M, and certain funds that the city has. So I'm gonna throw that out there.
I appreciate
because 2004, yeah, and you can, yeah.
I appreciate the detail. Yeah, and I think you justified deferring your vacation.
Thank you, Vice Chair Thompson. Commissioner McMahon, you had your hand up. Yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, thank you. And mine's more just thank you, Nemo, and to Hugh. Both of you guys have worked on these projects for many years. I know Nelson Park and Alpatch. I had the pleasure of being the commissioner assigned to those, and that work started long before I was here, so many years. So thank you to the staff for that. It's really exciting to see 3 of our projects recently get the attention they deserve. So I would ask, well, thank you to all the commissioners that made that happen, that are here tonight, and that have been here in the past. I would just ask all of our commissioners to continue to please advocate for these programs and these master plans. With our council members, with our mayor, let's get these things going. These projects take a long time. As Reggie just said, the first phase started at Alpatch in 2004, and that was a long time ago. So let's continue to advocate for these. Our community deserves it. As we grow, we have to keep up with that growth. So thank you to everyone. It's much appreciated, and nice job. Thank you.
Any other commissioner questions or comments? I have a couple. Thank you for the update on Dreamers Park. It was in my notes to ask you about, so I'm glad you brought it. I drive by it, I see the gates, the fencing up, and it just hurts because there's so many folks already living in that space already. I had a couple questions about the phases, but I think Commissioner Thompson or Vice Chair Thompson helped answer some of those. But you did say something that kind of piqued my thought process here is Parks and Rec now is really busy. I think there's a lot of things on the table considering the budget presentation we just had. I hope that there's potentially a consideration maybe for an additional park planner. I think it's challenging to sit on this end of things and hear you say, I think consistently, right? Like, how do I prioritize? Like, what's the priority when everything feels like a priority? I think some of that is probably because we've neglected Parks and Rec for a couple decades. But, I think maybe in light of the budget discussions, maybe there is time, or now is the time to consider additional staffing assistance. Maybe it's contract, maybe it's another part-time park planner, but something to consider. Yes, Director Hubbard.
Oh, yeah, I'll be addressing that under director comments.
Okay, okay. That's why you've got the poker face on over there. Okay, I don't see any other commissioner questions or comments. Thank you. Oh, go ahead, Nemo.
I've got one last thing, and I want to augment likely what Director Hubbard wants to touch on, but so I would just say that it's not just our department, we collaborate a lot with Public Works on the construction of the parks, and so when we're having discussions about staffing, it's both us and them. I want to always sort of take them into account. And then the last thing is, thank you so much for advocating for my vacation time in front of my boss.
At least 6 of us.
And then obviously just to reciprocate and thank you guys because this is all of our victories. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nemo, for the updates. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Where am I at? Agenda item 12, reports of Recreation Manager Melody Ocampo.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. I just have a few fun things to share with you this evening, and when Tracy makes her way over, we'll get to that first slide. Some exciting events. This one actually just passed. Last Saturday, we had our annual underwater egg hunt. It's a fun-filled event. We throw eggs in the pool. We keep the candy and small prizes out. Those get collected after the fact. You trade in your eggs and get to then, I know, enjoy. No one wants soaked, Jolly Ranchers or anything else. That would probably not be good for our watering system or, all our sanitation. Let's not go there. So that was just a really fun one that we had last Saturday. Next up, Tracy. So coming up this coming Saturday is our bunny breakfast, and that's just a picture from last year. I just have a small little snippet of the date and time. Unfortunately, it's sold out, so I didn't want to highlight it too much, but it is a very fun one. It is one that you have to kind of get in early for, but just it is going to be an annual tradition that we have and continue to do year after year. Next up, Tracy. And then bunnies and bonnets, that comes right after the bunny breakfast. In fact, the Miss Bunny Bonnet herself walks the breakfast attendees over from McBride Senior Center over to Andrews Park, where they get to enjoy a lot of fun activities. Of course, the highlight is the annual egg hunt, but we've got some great things such as wagon rides this year. We're going to have some good entertainment and some great vendors out. So please come by. This one is come one, come all, so no need to worry. It does get quite busy, so I do recommend getting there early. And then coming up towards the end of the month, our VacaCon event. This is back and just more popular than ever. We've got a ton of interest, and as you can see from the folks pictured in our ad here, attendees are encouraged to arrive early to meet some of our guest celebrities. Who you see here are YouTube creator MV Perry, wrestling star Brian Kendrick, and WWE Hall of Famer Rikishi, and then the voice of Boo from Monsters, Inc., Mary Gibbs. So some exciting celebrities for folks to interact with. We've got VIP package, day of ticket sales, as well as advance. You save about $5 if you register early. So definitely get those tickets and come on out on April 22nd. And that is it. Any questions I can answer?
Any commissioner questions or comments for Melody? Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much, Melody, for the updates.
Thank you.
Let's see, agenda item 13, reports of Director Reggie Hubbard.
Thank you, Commission Chair. I think I better start with this one that we do have an associate planner that we've interviewed for that will be assisting Nemo. If you recall, that actually got approved last year. But the way the process works is with, you get your positions approved, and then you get put in a queue. And if there's, police officers are maybe sometimes first, or firefighters, and then we're like third or fourth, and then we have to go through that process of hiring them. So we did just interview several associate park planners, and we will be doing the department interview next Friday. And so hopefully we will have a little reprieve for Nemo, so he could take that much needed vacation that everyone's advocating for. So we're happy about that because we do have a lot of projects and we have more projects coming. So that's great. Each year, the California Parks and Recreation Society, we have our awards and installation banquet. And this year we recognized Tom Felipe for his work on Play for All Park. He wasn't able to come to the celebration, to the event, because he's a very busy guy, of course, but we will make sure that he gets his plaque. But it was very great to be able to recognize him for his contribution to the city of Vacaville and Play for All Park. So he was recognized by California Park and Recreation Society. And let's see, we do have our arts master plan that was approved. Funding was approved by the city council and with the ARPA funds. So Melody Ocampo has been working on an RFP. That RFP should be going out here this month. So you should see that. And then we should begin to see some traction with the arts and public places master plan here pretty soon. So be looking out for that. I think, I'm sorry, and then you should have in your packet the committee roles. And so we're not going to select those tonight, but we wanted you guys to have these so that way you're aware of what the committee is made up of, when they meet, and see if you're interested in any of these committees, because everyone's term is up on these particular committees. So if you want to switch committees, stay on the same one, think about it for next meeting, and then we'll be appointing folks at the next meeting in May. So be thinking about it, all right? And that's all I have. I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Any commissioner questions or comments for Director Hubbard? All right. I did have a quick question. The associate park planner, part-time, full-time? Full-time. Full-time, okay. All right, cool. All right, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 14, reports of the commission. 14A, election chair and vice chair. Who's jumping up for the opportunity to be chair? Do we have any nominations on the table?
I make a nomination to keep Marion. That's a great job.
I second. Oh my gosh.
She's just been on a roll. I don't think it's exactly.
Wow, no hesitation there on the second. Oh my gosh. Any other nominations? Fine. So I have a nomination of myself, Mary Vasquez, as chair, by Baruman, and a second by Commissioner Gutierrez. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, okay, that sounds unanimous. Vice chair, nominations for vice chair. So as you all saw in the packet, the vice chair would serve in my absence. Nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner McMahon.
Okay, so I have a nomination by former Vice Chair Thompson and a second by Commissioner. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, I guess I will stay on top of the agenda and keep facilitating here as chair. Congratulations, Commissioner McMahon, as Vice Chair. You will serve in my absence. Okay. So moving on to 14B, selection of one volunteer judge for the VacaCon costume contest. I hear there is one city council member that will also serve as a volunteer judge. And so we need also a Parks and Rec commissioner for Saturday, April 22nd at noon. I have a feeling people are probably looking at their calendars. Any volunteers? I have Commissioner McMahon.
I'll volunteer.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Is the time, I'm sorry, is the time noon? So it's probably an hour or two that,
Probably a couple hours, arrive probably a half hour early.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, do we need to take a roll call or a vote on that? It's just a volunteer basis. Okay.
No vote is necessary, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, Commissioner McMahon, for volunteering. Reports of the commission, Commissioner Oz, any updates?
Thank you. I guess, first of all, if I think I'm right, that to congratulate on the reappointment of Chair Vasquez, Commissioner Shea, and Commissioner McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
Great, okay.
Yeah.
And then again, congratulations, Vice Chair and Vice Chair on your new appointments. I was actually, I had the privilege of attending the CPRS conference this week, the California Parks and Recreation Society Conference. And for those of you that don't know, this is a training conference that's primarily California, but it's actually larger than that. It's actually the whole West Coast. And it's a great conference for park and recreation professionals all the way down the line to get training on different aspects of parks and recreation. So the conference is held over 3-4 days, and there's a huge exhibit hall with vendors for everything that you can imagine, as well as what's the fun part of it is all the playground manufacturers actually have playground equipment inside the exhibit hall. So you can actually touch, feel, and experience these really innovative playground equipment. It's really amazing of some of the things that you wouldn't have thought what you could play on. Some really great playground equipment. And so I was fortunate in my professional work to attend that. I've attended that for 20 years, but also I know Elizabeth and 4 or 5 recreation staff were actually able to attend the conference as well. And I just wanted to thank you for supporting that. And I would continue to encourage that. It's for those that might have attended, it's a really great conference that you really get a lot of not only the exhibit hall, but then a lot of great sessions that I think attendees just really leave really excited more about the work that they do. So this is CPRS is the same conference that came up with the logo about 8 to 10 years ago, Parks Make Life Better. And I remember when that actually came out, and I thought, that is just the greatest slogan you can think of. And so that's the logo that came from that conference. The only other thing that I had was I just wanted to thank the pickleball community for coming to this meeting, the prior meeting to that, and for all of your enthusiasm to what you bring to the sport. And again, as people know, in my professional career, I actually have a lot of my clients are park and recreation districts or departments. And since I joined the commission, I've been talking with them about pickleball just on the side. And what we hear from you is what I also hear from some of my clients, that it is true that this is people are very passionate about this sport, and it is growing. And so what disappoints me is all the struggles that you have to go through, and I appreciate you're still marching through and doing what you can, but I would really like to see, and I know we have a lot of priorities, but I would really like to make sure that pickleball is elevated to that higher priority level, so that we can get you some more fields and to be able to draw it in. Because I have a feeling that if we had the courts, that you could grow participation in the community very, very easily. So it's just sad that you just have to go through all the efforts that you have to do. So And I don't know what that looks like. I know we talk about, well, we're trying to build a long-term plan for it. But I mean, really, we need an immediate plan because, you're really struggling. So it'd be sad to in 2-3 years, you finally get some pickleball courts. I'd hate to see that. So I don't know what that looks like. I would just like to elevate pickleball more as a priority if we can. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Oz, for your updates. Commissioner Baruman.
Follow that, Jesus, it's a lot, boss. But anyways, I'm gonna thank, the staff today with the reports. It was really, I mean, just, there's so much on the plan that, especially Nemo with the park planning, everybody wants to know when's my park gonna be built. Where's the events happening over here, Melanie? You know, things that are happening, but even when I open up social media, any magazine, you guys are there.
Yeah.
And I go, that's awesome. You guys are doing a fantastic job. And I just want to congratulate Mary again for becoming our chair. Without your leadership, we'd be lost, okay? Thank you. And Jim McMahon. But again, the pickleballers, you guys are enthusiastic. You guys still smiling, even though there's a big struggle there. And hey, you proved the point. You can play anywhere. Well, thank you. That's all I have to add.
Thank you, Commissioner Baruman. Commissioner Gutierrez.
Yeah, to follow that, thank you, Commissioner Oz. Echo everything my fellow commissioners have said so far. Appreciate you guys coming out always. Pickleball